so pretty much in last class we were seeing how do we create a repository, how do you actually try to add a file to the repository, how do you do changes, and how do you do commit. Some basic stuff. So the next thing what we were trying to do was we were trying to share some information from the repository and to the local repository to the central repository. So whatever we have in our local repository, we had the same thing in the central repository. Now how did that happen? It happened because of the git push command. So if you see, in both the repositories we have changes similarly. Okay, now when you take as a workplace, what will happen? Now let's say that there is a new user and he wants to create his own workspace. Now what will he do again? Again he has to, the screen is in maximize mode. Is there any specific problem? You want to increase the size? Is that visible? Nagesh? Okay. So now as a user, what will happen? There will be some other users who wants to create their own workspace. So just like that, now assume that there's a new user coming and he's trying to create his workspace. So now how will he create? Again, he will be saying git clone, and what is the central repository from where he's picking up. So logically again he should be giving this GitHub some path, or he will say some server name, then slash some path slash central git, or the central.git repository he'll be specifying. So now once again this repository is my own server. So what we are going to do is we are going to simply use this path, okay, and say I'll say new01. Okay, so that means new01 is a new user. That is what I'm trying to put. Fine. So we have created. Okay. Now if you go inside this new01, and now if I do a git log, is it for everyone, or Nagesh, is it only for you? What about others? Prithvi, Rajesh, you can hear me properly?
Yes.
Nagesh, are you? Okay, just let me know in case if the voice is not clear for everyone. Okay? He left. Okay, we'll get started again. Fine. Now, in the new workspaces, whichever that we created, okay. Now, if you go inside it, if you see, we have all the content that whatever we have in the central.git. Now, what happened here? So, whenever you create a new workspace, you are actually not only replicating the code inside it, you are also getting a copy of the repository what you had in the central.git. That is why whatever is present in the central.git, you are getting it exactly the same. Okay, so to put it in a simple way, now say that this is your central.git. Okay, now here what you had some versions like this. Okay, now when I say git clone, what it will happen is from a particular point where you are currently. So now what is the latest? The latest is this. So from this commit ID, what we did was we created one workspace wherein this is my local workspace, and since you are not just copying all the files, you are logically copying the git repository or the git directory which is present inside the central repository or the central workspace. So since you are getting it everything, even this workspace or the repository will have all the data what it is there in the parent or the origin, that is central. So that is why here you are seeing the same amount of changes, whatever is present here will be present here. Okay, unlike other tools it is not like that, but here you are actually copying the Git repository itself. So when you say clone, it just takes a complete copy from here to here. Now as soon as you put a different copy, what is happening? This acts as a separate repository and this acts as a separate repository, and whatever contents that you have, now this content that you have seen here is owned by this directory or this repository. So going forward, any changes that you do in this is known only by this local repository. Anything that you push from others to here, it will be stored only in this. Okay, be clear with that. Okay, now let's try to do some changes here. So we have some content. So what I'll do is I'll put some content here. I'll say line 2 in the file called 2.java. So now if you say git status, you will see it is saying it is modified. So now let me try to check it in. So what will you do to check in? First you have to push it into the staging area. So you will say git add. Okay, once you say git add, if you cross check, it will be fine. Once this is done, you will say git commit and some message. So now I'll say first commit from new 01. Okay, so I've done. Fine. So I'll just flush the screen. Now inside this, if you say git log, you see it is showing one latest. As I said, git log is a command which will show the latest to the oldest commit ID. Now here there are 4 IDs. Now how did the 4th one come? It is because we did some changes in 2.java now, and because of that it gave me a new commit ID. Correct? So this is the latest commit ID which is obtained for committing from the new 01. So now if you see, this will be available only in your new 01. Okay, let me just try to go back to the central repository and see. Okay, so I'll keep it here. I'll open one more. Okay, so okay, so now I'm inside the central.git. Now if I say git log, so if you see, what is that I'm still pointing to? I'm still pointing to this commit ID called 580. And what happened to this? It is not present because any changes that you do is local to that repository on which you are doing. So unless and until you don't share, Git will not share, because that is the advantage wherein you have a repository now, right? You have a local repository .git which will contain all these changes. So you can store it permanently as long as you want, and only when you want to share it with others, you will do a push. So now what is that? This is not present here. Now again, when you as a user has done all the changes, and now when you feel that this has to be given to the customer, or this has to be stored as a central place wherein others can take your changes, then what you can do is you can simply do a git push. So when you do a git push, what it will do, it will try to take the changes which you have done currently in new 01, and it will update your central.git with respect to that. Okay, so now you have updated. So now if you just quickly scroll down, okay, and if I say git log again, so you see central.git got updated with that change number. So if you see, it is not just pushing the changes, it is giving all the metadata information. So when I say metadata, what is it? The commit ID, author, who did it, when they did it, what is the message they have given. So now all this information has been shared. But still, try to remember, this commit ID is local to this commit ID is local to this, wherein the command push is trying to take all the details about that. So whenever you are taking the changes, logically it is not just the change. Internally, with reference to these data, you will be finding the exact change. And that is what I was telling to you about snapshots when we are create, right? It doesn't store the exact file content, but it will be storing some reference like this. With respect to that, it will get the data what you have modified.
Author will be same in the all time.
Yes, that is the reason we need it. We don't want to change author, because now if I change author here, then no one will know who's been modifying it, right?
Now how can we find that only the comment there was a message that here the first comment from 101.
Yes.
Here from we can find that only the new 01 changes something.
Yeah, so that is what I said. It is not easy just to look at this and say who modified it, right? For that purpose, it is always good to keep author. So now I can know who is modifying it. Here, since it is the same user we are practicing, it is only one name. But now, if assume that this new 01 was you will be getting your name. Say that this was my name, then I would know, okay, this has been done for me, this is done by you. Now, if whatever change that you did is problematic, it is not working, then I can clearly say that only because of this it is not working. Whereas until this point, everything was working fine. As soon as I took this change, it is not working. That means your code is problem. Who wrote this code? This person. This is the contact detail, and what is the message that he has given, we can come to know all those things. Okay, so fine. So now it's the same concept wherein every developer will do like this. Now, what about the reverse scenario? Now, here I was talking about new 01 as a separate user, right? Now, let's go back to one more directory. Okay, now we have new 00, right? So new 00 is one more user, correct? Now, he is not worked from some time, but suddenly now he wants to do some work. But if you see, he wants to do some work, but he is working on a older data. Why? Because this new 01, he did some latest changes and he has put some changes and he has put it in the central repository. Okay. Now, if you see, how will the user called this user is going to get that latest data and work? Hey, one minute. What is that? Sorry for that, guys. So this I was saying that what if this user called new 00, whoever is working, he doesn't have the latest change. So now logically if he starts writing the code, it will not be correct, because you have some new content there and that has to be synced to his place, and then he has to modify on top of that. Okay, so how can he do that? So now what I'm trying to say is, until now you did something called push, that is from your local repository you updated a central repository, but now it is the reverse. The reverse in the sense, you need to get some latest data which is available in the central repository to your local repository. Okay, so as the name which generally I said, it is very simple. So the opposite of push is pull. So you just say git pull, and what it will do is automatically it knows that what is the origin. When I say origin, what is the parent from which you have created? So automatically it will try to fetch the information and see, it is clearly saying that currently you are pointing to this change number or this commit ID, correct? So this was the earlier commit ID, right? This was the new one which was created. So it is clearly saying that you are updating this workspace with this change number to the latest change number. So now if you say git log, you would have got the latest changes here also. And if you say do.java, you see this changes also has come. So git pull is the command for which you will use to sync or update your workspace with respect to the latest commit ID or changes present in the central repository. Okay, so typically being a user, this is what you will be doing majority of the time. Only the first time you will be doing a git clone, then whenever you want to modify, you will be trying to modify. But as a good practice, you should not just be going ahead and blindly start modifying it. Every time before you try to modify, first you need to check whether there is a latest change, try to get or do a git pull so that you will get updated, and then you have to put it back. Because there will be some kind of merge conflicts that will happen, then the developer has to fix it. So we don't have to worry about fixing all those things. Whereas in other tools, we will be responsible to solve all those things. But here, when you try to do an update, what if you have already done some changes? You are trying to get that, right? So Git will try to ask you all those questions to solve. Okay, so we'll see further how do you resolve all those conflicts when you have multiple changes. So it is not practical that I have to be waiting until someone updates and then I will do, right? Typically, this user can do parallelly. So now instead of line 2, if he has modified it as line 3, then it will clearly say that you are trying to get some change, but I see you have already modified some change. So it doesn't know what to do. So practically it will ask you. So you have to instruct all those things. So we will see more about this topic when we go to the topic of merging. Okay, so merging in the sense two different data you have on the same file. How do you merge that? We will see. Okay, so is that clear with the pull command? So pull means updating your local repository with the changes what is present in the central repository. Whereas push means is the opposite. You're giving or putting the information from your local repository to the central repository. Okay, so git push and pull is fine. And then, okay, so now, so we've been talking that I can do push, pull, I can create some new files. Okay, now, what will happen in reality is when a developer tries to write a code, okay, he will not do a commit immediately. He will first try to verify whatever code he has written is fine. So how can he verify? He will try to do a build. That means he will compile the file, run the file, do some tests against it, and he will ensure that everything is fine. Then he will go ahead and commit. So when he tries to do that, what will happen? When you compile a file like 1.java, you will get an output called 1.class. Okay, so like this, each and every file that he modifies, he will be getting a object file or a class file like this. Okay, now what if he does a git add dot dot? What will happen? You see, even though this is a runtime created file, Git is still considering this file. Now, as I was saying yesterday, Git is used to store a set of changes. So now, if I simply say git add dot, what will happen? It will try to consider this also and it will put into the staging area. And by mistake, if you say commit, what will happen? You are storing this class file also or the object file. So as a developer, do we really need to store this 1.class? No, this is just a runtime created file. Then what is that we can do? Or how we can instruct to the Git not to pick any files like this. Okay, so for that we have a file called git ignore. Okay, so what you mean by that is if you put any content inside a file called git ignore, what Git will do is it will any operation that you are asking it to perform, First, it will try to read that file. Any data that is matching inside what you have given in the git ignore file, it will not consider for performing that action of what git wants to do. So in that case, git ignore will contain the name of the file, name of the folder, whatever that you want to work, that should be ignored. Okay, so it is just a file with the list of name of the file that you want to ignore. So, but if you have 100 files like this, you cannot give 100 file names. So git ignore has a concept of taking pattern matching, which means you can say some pattern. Instead of saying one dot class, two dot class, I can say simply star dot class, which means any file name which is ending with dot class, don't consider for any kind of operation. So what I'll do now is I'll try to create it. So simply I'll say star dot class, and I'm putting it into a file called git ignore. Okay, I'm done. So now once again, why is that it is giving us dot? It has to be a hidden file. If not, someone might try to delete it accidentally. It will not do. Okay, so you see, you have this file. Okay. Now, see what happens. If I say git status, what should happen? No. If I say git status, what should be the output? Nagesh, Prithvi, Rajesh. Nope. What is the need of git ignore?
Unwanted files.
Yeah, what was that unwanted files that you wanted to ignore? Class file. Class file. In my case, one dot class, right? So when I say git status, it should not show one dot class here, isn't it? What happened? It is showing. Why is it?
Because it's already there.
No. No. Okay. If you want, I can change this and show. What's happening? Now, if you see, Git still doesn't know anything about git ignore. Why? Because it is just like any other file. You are still trying to put this file as a normal file. So the best practice is that you should be committing this git ignore to the repository. Only then it will try to recognize and it will not consider everything. Getting it? Okay, so now what we'll do is we will try to commit this file itself. So I'll say git add. Okay, I'll say git ignore. And then what we'll do is we will try to do a git commit. Okay. Okay, so now if I try to do a git status,
regarding the warning, there is a warning that I'll have been replaced by the
I'll come to that. Wait a minute, is the file name correct? Should logically not pick up that. Did I do some mistake? No. Okay. Ideally, it should. So there were some characters at the end, so it didn't take. Okay, so now don't worry about it. Okay, so you have this file. Now, no matter what command I type, it will not be considering the class files. Okay, so now if I create one more file called 2.class, okay, and if you still try to run any command, Git will not be considering. Why? Because in the Git ignore, I have given a reference as star class. So any class files that you try to create, it will not be considering. What if I create a new file called log file? I'll say build.log. I'm just creating some log file. Now if you try to run Git, now if I try to run Git status, it will say this. So see, any content that you put into the Git ignore, it will be ignoring them. So like that, whenever you are trying to create a new repository, it is a good practice as a developer. He has to instruct and put in all those runtime files that will be created, and you don't have to give every file name. You can simply use the pattern matching, like I said, star.class, star.log, so that everything inside this workspace will be negated, or it will not considered for any kind of Git operations. Okay, is that clear with everyone? Nagesh, Rajesh, hello. Buddy, what about you? Is that clear, Rajesh?
Yeah, it's very clear.
Okay, Rajesh, is that fine? Are you there? Rajesh? What happened? Okay. Fine. So now, specifically now talking about this git log command. So what does git log command do? Git log command will try to list you all the commits that has been present in your current repository, and it will show you in the order of latest commit ID to the older commit ID. Now, if you see, as you keep doing different commits, the number of commit IDs will be growing. So typically every time if you say git log, it is going to print like this. If you have more than 100 commit IDs, you cannot really see this. The page will be going on. So for that, we have certain options in the git log to help us to clearly see what is it. So simply, if you say git log followed by some number, that is hyphen some number, it will print only that many commit IDs beginning from the first or the latest commit ID. So now if I say, it will be printing only the first entry which is available. So what is your current commit ID on which we are working? This is the commit ID, right? Suppose if I want to see the first two commit IDs, I can simply say, so now from the latest to the little older, it will be giving you the two list. So like this, you can pick up these numbers. So always, if someone asks, or if you want to know what is the latest commit on which you are working, simply say git log -1, and it will give you all the latest, or it will give you the latest. Okay, so if you don't want to get all the list like this, you can still say git log -1 line, wherein it will just give you a shorter form. So you can represent a commit ID with the whole 40 characters, or you can just simply use the first 7 characters and you can represent it. So this will be the shorter version of the commit ID. Okay, so you can represent in that way also. Now, again, now a problem comes that suddenly if I want to know who did some change, okay, how will you find it out? Now, just by looking at this, it will not be easy. Again, if I have 1000 commit IDs, will you be scrolling down through 1000 to find out? No. So for that, in Git, we have one option called grep, so which will try to check all the commit IDs with the pattern or with the string what you are specifying. Wherever it matches that, it will try to give you the complete detail about that commit ID. So for example, if I say git ignore, okay, see what it does. So it is giving only 2 commit IDs wherever the string what you have given git ignore is matching in the comment of that commit ID. Okay, so like this, quickly you can use some pattern and you can refer. So that is the reason I was saying every time it is mandatory to give some comment. Wherein in production or in the companies, you will not just be typing here. So for every change that you do, there will be something called bug ID. So that will be used to track. I'll tell in detail about bug ID in the last class when we talk. But every company has to have some kind of tracking mechanism for the bug details. Okay, so when you are creating a bug or trying to do some problem for the bug, you have to track them. So for tracking, there will be a separate tool in which you will be giving the data and you will get some ID which will refer to that change. So those data will be given here. Okay, so whenever like you are modifying it, when you are committing it, you will give all those details saying that this is the problem which I faced, and for this problem, this is the fix I am giving, and what is that fix you have given? All those things will be given in the commit ID. So that if you want, you can grab, or looking at it, you can clearly keep all the details. Okay. Now, what if you want to know what is the content of this? So for that, you can use a command called git show, and you can just refer to the commit ID. So shorter form or full form. Okay. So if you just say this, so again, it is going to give you a little deeper data of what is this commit ID, who did it, what was the command, and along with it, it is also going to say what exactly you modified, from which change number you created it, what was the content that you did. So everything that it is going to say. So it is clearly saying that you already had a file called gitignore. In that you had a file name called one.class that you modified to star.class. So like this, it will give you a complete details about what you have done in this commit ID, or what was the changes done for which the commit ID was created.
There is a plus and a minus.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about that. It's more Git terminologies. But looking at it now, I can say this. Okay, this was the line added, but unless until you are the person who modified it, you will not be knowing what changes you did, right? So it is just a Git terminology showing you, but don't go deeper into thinking about all those concepts. In that case, you'll break your head. For my concept, what I'm trying to say is, if you want to know any point of time quickly, so just see this data below. So that will tell you that, okay, earlier it was one.class, but now it is saying, so minus means removed, plus means added. Okay, the content in this file called gitignore, so this means the previous version. The previous commit ID, it is referring to this. The current time commit ID, it is referring to this. So it is saying that first you had one line called one.class, you replace that with star.class. That is what it is saying. Minus mean that line was removed. Instead of this line was added. So that is what it is saying here. Minus 1 means removed one line. Plus 1 means added. So logically, see, it is taking in that deeper level. Even though I modified the same line, it is trying to consider line by line. It is saying that you have removed one line, because earlier it was one.class. Now you changed it. So it is considering it as a new line. So minus 1 means remove one line, and plus 1 means adding one line. So that is how it very deeply tries to see the changes and take it. Okay. Fine. So, okay. So is it clear until now? Alright. Now, there's something before we proceed. I'll talk something about branching. So as I was telling you in the first class, so logically all the changes whatever you do will be stored in the branch. So in the repository it will not be stored directly, it will be stored on the branch. Okay, so even though you don't say to create a new branch, by default every time when you create a repository there will be a branch created. Okay, now let's see this. So now see what is it is saying. Every time it is saying master. What is this? Every workspace if you go, it is saying master, master. So what do you mean by that? Even if you go to new 001, it says, so if you say, it says master. So what is this master?
It's nothing but it's a main, like a main repository.
No. The question,
Uh,
the answer is not the right one.
I mean,
Repository. Now, how many repositories do we have in this workspace? There is only one repository. You cannot have
one repository. Yeah.
Okay, now then what is this? It means master
It does.
default branch.
Like
Yeah.
Like it is not a modified one, I think so.
No, it's not like that. I'll tell you what is.
All right. Okay. Okay.
So, what did I tell? First thing I said is that you will have your repository. Okay. You have your repository. Yeah, this is a ugly repository. Okay. So inside the repository, what I said, you will be storing the files, wherein you will not be storing the files directly, but there will be something called branch, and inside this branch you will be actually storing everything. So what is that? So we have 1.java, so you have 2.java, and you have 3.java or whatever you have, right? So now we have all those things. So considering the same concept in our workspace, now new 00 has one repository. So inside that, where is it stored everything? So there is a branch here, right? By default it created. So what is that branch? That branch is master. So in Git, master branch is the default branch in which you will be storing everything. Okay, even though we have never created a branch, whenever we create a new repository, a branch called master branch by default it will be created. So that is how whenever you are trying to store something in the repository, you don't store in the repository, you internally store in the branch. So until now, wherever we were working on the default branch called master. Okay, so going forward, if you want to create a new branch, then you will create a new branch and then you will work on the new branch. But unless and until you don't create, that doesn't mean that you are not working on the branch. Literally, until now, we were working on a default branch called master branch. Okay, so remember this. In Git, the default branch on which we'll be working is called as master. Or you can consider this as the main branch. That is from where you do everything. So main or master, it is the same understanding. That means with the base of this, you are storing everything in the repository. Is that clear? Nandish?
Yeah, it's clear.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah. Is that clear?
Yeah, clear.
Okay. Now, if you guys are seeing it clear, I'll tell you a little more. Fine.
Yeah, your voice is breaking.
Can you hear me now? I didn't talk.
No, not now. When you are speaking, that I'm getting some breaks.
I'm not sure. I'll try to be loud as much as possible. Okay. I'm not still understanding. Anyway, I'm just.
Yesterday and day, yesterday and day before yesterday, it's good. Today I think it's not good. Your voice is not clarity.
No, actually, I'm not
Exactly.
using my headset. I'll use headset from tomorrow. I thought I don't want to use my headset. I'll use my headset from tomorrow. We'll go inside and we'll use it. Okay. So at least you can hear me now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So fine. Now I'm writing a diagram. So what does this mean? What is this diagram? So I'm just trying to typically represent your workspace. Okay. Now what is this? This is your working directory. Okay. And what is this? This is your staging area. And what is this? This is the
Repository.
okay. Now assume that this is how it is going to look. So what will happen is until now we created one default, sorry, so we worked on a default branch called what? Master branch, right? And we were trying to do changes, put files into it. So we had 1.java and we had 2.java. So how exactly it works is whenever you go to the working directory, logically you should be pointing some content in the repository, right? So now, as soon as you went into the directory here, you were seeing 1.java and 2.java. Why? Because unless and until you are not using the content of a branch, you will not get anything here. Okay, so the use of working directory is to help you in viewing what is the content of a branch. Okay, so in that case, now we didn't have multiple branches. So by default, whatever branch is available in the repository, it was trying to show you the content. That means whatever is present in the default branch, it was showing you here. So that is the reason you were trying to modify anything here. Internally, you were actually modifying it on the master branch. So whatever you try to commit it here, it was stored in the master branch. Okay. Now, if we create a new branch, okay, assume that I create a new branch, okay, and say this is, I will call it as new underscore branch. Now, once you create a new branch, you can create from this particular place, and going forward anything that you do in this branch is known only to this branch, whereas this branch doesn't know anything. That is what I was telling. So now what I can do is, since we had created a new branch on basis of master branch, so I can have the same content, but additionally I can have some other content. So now whatever changes that you do in this branch is known only to this branch and it will not be knowing. Okay, but until now we were working on only master branch, but now as soon as you create a new branch and if you want to work on this, you have to tell to the Git saying that I am interested to work on this. Okay, there are some commands. How will you refer to that? Okay, when you refer to this saying that now please help me to view the content of this new branch. So whenever you say that, what Git will do is Git will try to replace the content of the working directory with the content of that particular branch. So it will do like this. Okay, so when you are switching branches with the default branch to a specific branch, how you will be able to see those files is Git will switch the content of the working directory with the content of the branch. So now by default you will be working on master. So when you say switch my content to this branch, so when you say internally what it will do, it will take the content of this and it will replace whatever content you had with the content of that branch. So that means at any point of time in the working directory you will be seeing all those files which is related to a particular branch. So now say that later when you want to switch back to master branch, when you say that command whatever We will see it later. When you say switch now to master, then once again what it will do? It will take the content of the master branch and replace it with the working directory. Okay, so that is how at any point of time in the working directory you will be seeing the content of a branch, wherein working directory is just a place like a mirror, sorry, like a window to just view what is inside the branch. Okay, so it doesn't mean that whatever content you have, it will be still present in the working directory. No, suppose if you have created 4.java, okay, when you say switch branches, it will just bring this and it will replace the content. And now when you say switch branch again to new branch, what it will do? It will take the content and it is not like overwriting, it will just replace the content here, so that the working directory will be pointing only to the content of a particular branch which you are interested to work. Okay, so you have to be clear in this. So like this, you can have multiple branches and you can switch between branches, wherein the content of the working directory is be changing based on the content of the branch. So that is how the advantage of Git is you can have as many branches as you want in your own local repository and you can modify everything. Okay, so regardless of the central repository having a new branch, you can have the new branch in your own place and you can start changing as much as you want. Okay, so the question comes, when do I go for a new branch? So branches will be created whenever you want to do certain parallel development. Okay, so it is still confusing if you say what is parallel development. Now assume this, there is a same product. Okay, now take an example of a product like Windows. Okay, so now, or take a mobile phone. I'll stick with the same old example. Now mobile phone, you have KitKat version or you have gingerbread, whatever version. Now if you see, the base for that is the same code, right? It is not that you are going to write a complete new operating system for gingerbread and you are not going to write a complete new operating system for KitKat. Pretty much both of them are going to be the same. The only difference is there are some functionalities which might not be present in the different version. So for that, what you do, the product is the same. So you will have the same set of files wherein you also want to release for something else. So what you do is you create a branch, you will have all the contents here, but in addition there will be some content specific to that future or specific to some need. So like that you can do parallel development. So now if you want to give a release, you can work on the master branch, you can release. If you want to work on new branch, you can work. So that for the same product you can do different tasks parallelly. Okay, now everything will be stored in the same repository. So like this, every repository will have a branch. So now if you see, new 001 can have one branch, new 00 can have one branch. So that doesn't mean that both of them are same. Anything that you create within the repository is known only to the repository. Once again, anything that you do in this branch is known only to this branch. So you can assume like a box. Anything that you put in this box is known only to this box. Anything that you put in a bigger picture into this bigger box is known only to that. Okay, so in that case, whatever you do in new 01 is local only to new 01. Whatever you do in new 00 is local only to new 00. So it is not mandatory that if you create a branch, it should not have the same name in others. Like if I say my name is Adam, no one else should be having the same name as Adam. No, they can have, but there is a different. I might be Adam in a different way and that person might be Adam in a different way. So that is how you can have the same name of the branch, same name of the versions everywhere, but it is local only to this repository or workspace. Okay, is that clear? Hello, Nagesh, Prithvi.
Yeah.
Will we get here? Okay, fine. So fine. So now let's see how do you create branch, how do you work on a branch, and we will try to work around with it. Okay. So now first thing what you can do is you can use a command called git branch. Okay. So when you say git branch, by default, it will try to list all the branches which is present in your repository or workspace. So if you see, what is it saying? It is saying master, because master is a default branch which is given to you when the repository is created. And the star mark indicates currently you are working on that branch. That is, your working directory points to this branch. Okay, so now how do I create a new branch? So you use the same command git branch and the name of the branch. Okay, so now if I say new underscore branch, so it has created. Now if you say git branch, you see it lists two branches wherein currently you are working in master. Okay, so how do I go to a particular branch? Now I want to switch from this branch to this branch. You have created. How do you switch? For switching, you use a command called git checkout followed by the branch name. Okay, so now watch closely. As soon as I do a switch branch, that is when I do a checkout, what is it saying? It switched from the master to new branch. So see this, it is also there. So now what happened? Typically, I told you this example, right? Now the working directory got changed from my master to new branch. So what is that I'll be pointing in my working directory? The content of new branch. Okay, now let's see what is the content of new branch. What is that you have? Okay, what is this you have? So typically here, if you see, you have all the content of what you had in the master. Okay, now look closely. It is not only the files, but each commit ID that you are trying to create is again local to the branch. It is not local to the repository. So when you create a commit, it is not common to the repository. It is with relation to the branch. Now, how is that new branch is also having the same content as that of master? Is because this is how it works. Okay, so you had your master. Okay, so in the master we had some commit ID, right? Now when we created a branch, it goes with the same concept where it created a new branch. So when you created a new branch, from where did you create? Yeah, from the master. At which point of the master? The latest commit ID, whatever you are pointing in the master, right? So when you point to the latest commit ID, from here we created a branch. Okay, so typically when you say what does this git commit or this commit ID commit, this contains certain other data about few others. So you cannot directly get one commit. Like I said, it is a chain wherein this commit ID refers to this commit ID internally, this refers to this refers to this. That is how you get all the list of contents. So that is why when you are creating a new branch from this, logically this will also have all the content whatever you had in this particular branch. So that is why now in the new branch you are seeing all the data whatever you have in the master branch. But remember, this is separate, this is separate. Since you have created a new branch, on the basis of this it has created. Okay, exactly. Now since I created from this particular place, anything that is present in this branch until that point will be created.
now it can work differently.
Exactly. Going forward, anything that you do is local to this branch, or anything that you do is local to this branch. We will see that. Okay. So now, where am I? I am in the new branch. Okay. So quickly, I'll show you this. So what is the latest commit ID? 887E. Now this is what is present in new branch, and it is the same corresponding. It will be present in the master branch, wherein the commit ID is common to the repository, but it is internally with respect to what branch you have modified. Okay, fine. Now, let us do one thing. Let me create a file called 3.java. Okay, so where is that I'm creating? I'm trying to put a new file called 3.java in new 01 of new branch. Okay, so let me add it. Let me commit it. Adding new file. Okay, is it fine? Now, it was 887, right? I'll just show you quickly. Now, if you see what is the latest commit ID, it has created a new one, that is 8EF. Okay, now you have this 3.java here. It is you're pointing to new branch. Now, let us go back to master. So if I say git checkout master, what you are trying to do, typically here what will happen, we had this 3.java here, right? So we didn't have this 4.java in the master. Now I'm just trying to represent, this is the exact state. Now when I say git checkout master, what will it do? It will try to take this content and replace the content whatever you have with the working directory. Okay, so now if I say git checkout master, so what is it saying? It is moved to the master. And now if you say ls, you don't find the 3.java. And now if I say git log -1, what is the latest commit ID it is pointing? It is still pointing to the 887. Wherein the changes whatever you do to that branch is available in the branch only. But all these changes, where is it present? It is present in the repository. Okay. So like this, you will be doing changes in a particular branch, and only that branch will be knowing it.
This branch is not present in the central level.
No. That is what I'm saying. Where is it present? What is that you are doing correctly? You are doing all these things only in your local. So that is what I said. It is a box. Anything that you do here is known only to this. Anything that you do within this is known. Anything that you do within this is known only to this box. So wherein, what is this? This is a separate repository.
There is no need to know that who created.
Exactly. Now this is your workspace. You have all the advantage. That is the beauty where in other tools, when you have a separate server, you are not having the repository in your place. It is being maintained in the server. So there should be a common branch created that will be shared by others. Whereas here, you have the copy of the repository. So you have the advantage of creating as many branches. You don't even have to ask anyone. There, you have to follow the principle, follow the procedure standard saying that this is how I should create. Now, you don't like to create the name as new branch. You can give it as your name. It will still work. No one cares what is it happening. The only thing they care is what is the content that you're putting. But whereas if you go to that centralized server, I cannot store my name as a branch name. People will ask, what is this? Right? It's just an example. That doesn't mean that you'll be doing it. But you have the freedom. But now, I can write any kind of code inside it. Right? That doesn't mean that you'll be writing some junk code. But anything that I do is only to this repository. If I don't want, simply I delete it. But if it is in a central, anytime you do a commit, there will be questions coming if you do it wrongly. So that is one more advantage wherein you can have as many branches locally with your current workspace. Okay, is that clear? Sorry, did you get that? I'll repeat it once again. So branching is nothing but it is a place exactly where you will be storing all the changes in a repository. So by default, there will be a branch called master in which you will be putting all the changes, and then if you create a new branch and as soon as you switch the branch, Git will replace the content of the working directory with the content of that particular branch, so that any point of time you are working on this, internally you will be working on the branch. Okay, so any changes that you do in this is local only to this branch, and anything that you do in the repository is local only to this repository.